In an election that was criticized by rights groups, Tunisia's President Kais Saied has won a second term with more than 90% of the vote, the Electoral Commission has said. Only 2 candidates out of more than a dozen other hopefuls were allowed to stand against President Saied in Sunday's ballot, where only 29% of the more than 9 million registered voters took part. Saied's closest challenger, businessman Ayachi Zamal, won 7% of the vote despite being sentenced to 12 years in prison for falsifying documents, just 5 days before the poll. There were no campaign rallies or public debates, and nearly all the campaign posters in the streets were backing the president. 5 political parties had urged people to boycott the elections in the belief that they would not be free or fair. Tunisia was where a wave of pro-democracy protests in the Arab world began in late 2010, ousting longtime autocrat Zine El Abidine bin Ali early the following year. The North African country was seen as a beacon of democracy in the region. Tunisia's president seeks new term in election he's all but sure to win. But since Saied, a former law professor, was elected on a wave of optimism in 2019, the 66-year-old has suspended parliament, rewritten the constitution, and concentrated power into his hands. He was widely expected to win a second term after the authorities arrested and jailed dissidents as well as potential rivals. According to preliminary results, Saied received 2,438,954 favorable votes. The country's independent high authority for elections, ISI, said on Monday evening. The third candidate on the ballot, former lawmaker Zahir Magzo, received nearly 2% of the vote. The final results of the presidential election are set to be announced early next month, according to the electoral agency. Sunday's vote was Tunisia's third presidential election since Ben Ali was overthrown in 2011 following months of massive protests. He had been in power for over 2 decades before he was forced to flee to Saudi Arabia, where he died in 2019. Rights group Amnesty International has denounced a worrying decline in fundamental rights under Saied's government as discontent rises over his perceived authoritarian style of governance. But Saied has rejected the criticism, saying he is fighting a corrupt elite and traitors.